Hey everyone, today I want to talk about a question I receive regularly, which is how much content do I need as a new coach? And the truth is, the answers I'm going to give you may surprise you. The first thing I want to note is that not every coach needs to have content at all. In fact, it's perfectly fine if you're a one-on-one coach for you to not have any content, to not have any curriculum, and to simply coach in such a way that you make your coaching sessions about the other person, that you become a master of asking great questions and helping people find their own answers. Our sales process, our 10-step sales process, helps people navigate a conversation that's really focused on asking questions of the other person and helping them reach a level of clarity and inspiration and commitment to solve their own problem. If we can help people identify the problem they have and commit to solving it, that's a big part of the battle won in helping people become more of who they were meant to become or achieve more of what they want in their life. And so that's a great form of coaching. And it would be fine for you as a one-on-one coach to simply do that. There are also forms of group programs and signature offers that don't include any curriculum, that do not include any content, that don't really include any teaching per se. And I think that most coaches believe that they must have content to have a group program. But it would be perfectly fine for your group program, your group calls, if you had a targeted audience that was trying to solve a specific set of problems or that had certain things in common with one another that brought them together, for you to just facilitate a great community of conversation and thought leadership in your area of expertise without necessarily having content or teaching. You could simply ask 2 or 3 questions. Some of the most powerful calls we've ever had, group calls we've ever had at Faith2Influence, are calls where we simply ask 2 or 3 questions. We give people an opportunity to journal and consider the questions, to personalize the ideas to themselves. Then we give people a chance to share with each other in breakout rooms. And then we bring everyone back into the main room to share in the larger group. And we provide some additional coaching. We share feedback. We ask the next question there to drive the lesson or the breakthrough or the realization a little bit deeper. That kind of call is really valuable. It's really transformational if we get the right people together and we ask the right questions to have that kind of conversation. There are also plenty of mastermind signature offer type groups that focus primarily on hot seat format, where it's just like live coaching on the calls. There are plenty of groups that focus on shares and accountability more than they focus on content, where people come to the group call and they simply have an opportunity to kind of go around in a circle and take turns sharing about their experience, about their progress, about what they're going through. And people just receive them and create space for them to have a place where they can share, they can be received, they can be seen. There's value in that. And so I'm sharing these different ideas to let you know and remind you, as we've told you before on this podcast, that you don't have to do it the way anyone else does it. And I don't want you to get caught in this mindset of like, it has to be this way. Now, you may find that you've got a mentor that you want to follow. You may find that you've got a certain style that fits for you, and that's the way it should be for you. Great. Fantastic. And I want to remind you to always be considering what is most ideal for you, what feels light and fun and natural for you. Some of the most valuable groups I've ever been a part of focus primarily in group calls on share and prayer. And that was the bulk of it. And there was so much value and they were worth so much to me. In fact, our new Christian Coaches Academy is focused on share and prayer and like facilitating questions. That's what that group's going to be about. It's not going to be live teaching and training. We'll have pre-recorded content in that. We do live teaching and training in our Sales School for Coaches flagship 6-month program. But in our new Christian Coaches Academy, the primary opportunity on a weekly basis to connect with a group is going to be sharing, networking, answering questions, praying together. It's not going to require content to lead exceptional calls. Many of you have joined that program and are going to experience that with us, which is going to be really fun. And so I want to give you that vision. Now, all that to say, I do have content for Faith2Influence. I think of myself not only as a coach, but also as a trainer, as a teacher. The content that I train people on and teach people on is very important. And so we do have a curriculum at Faith2Influence because the problem I help people solve selling more in a high integrity way and having more income, more impact, that kind of problem requires some curriculum to be most easily solved. It requires some training. It requires some processes to be most easily mastered and solved. Not every single program requires that. And so I want you to just discern and consider, does your program require some content, some training, some teaching, some master classes, whether it's in group form or one-on-one? Most of that happens in group. If so, fantastic. Then you need a little bit of content. And that's what this call is about, is to talk you through that. Now, what I want to let you know is you probably don't need as much content as you think. You may only need 4 or 6 pieces of content that you would ever have to have and teach. Now, inside of those different topics, those different themes, there might be a number of different kind of subtopics that can be divided up into different lessons if you want it to be. But you just don't need very much content to satisfy people. We've talked about this on this podcast before. You've probably heard me say it. Maybe it's getting annoying, but I want to remind you of the truth that we do not need to learn 10,000 kicks. The master learns 1,000. That's funny. The master learns 1 kick and does it 10,000 times rather than learning 10,000 kicks once each. If we do the same thing again and again and again, we have the opportunity to become exceptional at it. We have an opportunity to become masters at it. They say that to become a master of anything, you need 10,000 hours. I'm fairly confident that I'm over 10,000 hours now in sales. That's helped me get to the place of mastery. And that's a good reminder for all of us. If you're a health coach, your client doesn't need a new idea, a new content item every single week. You could literally run an annual program with 4 topics, and you could meet every single week, and you could just rotate those 4 topics again and again and again and do what we call playing the hits, like a great radio station. Play the hits. You don't need a new song over and over and over again. You don't need that much variety. It doesn't mean that you'll never develop another piece of content. But what I know is if like you are a health coach and you've got 4 areas of expertise, nutrition, movement, hydration, sleep, you could absolutely only ever have those 4 topics. And inside of those topics, you might have subtopics, you might have other things you teach on. But if you really developed 4 pieces of content, 1 in each of those areas, and you taught those things over and over and over again, so that you became a master of the teaching, you became a master of the nuance yourself, and your clients received these same messages again and again and again and again and again in your program, that would probably create the most progress, the most transformation, and the most success for you and for them. Rather than having 75 things that you teach because you don't want to teach the same thing over and over. And oh, you had some renewal clients. You don't want to teach them what they learned last year. No, teach them what they learned last year. Here's the truth. At Faith2Influence, we've only got a few things that we teach. We teach over and over and over our 10-step sales process. We teach over and over and over the art of influence. We teach over and over and over passive and active prospecting strategies. We teach over and over and over how to get referrals. We teach our rules of engagement. I've taught them, 100 times now at this point. But that's about it. I don't have a whole lot more than that I teach. I do help people with their business model design and their pricing. And so we've got these different topics, right? But if we look at like the business model, pricing, mission statement, like if I group that, to me, that's one topic. I teach that as one workshop if I wanted to. The whole business design pricing topic is one workshop for me. The art of influence and the mindset around sales and money is one second topic for me. A third topic is the sales process, the 10-step process. And a fourth topic for me is walking people through how to generate more leads, create opportunity, prospect, line up sales calls, those kinds of things. Now, there's a lot of different offshoots in those different areas, and there's a lot of different ways I can teach the same thing again and again. But even in sales school, we've got only 12 topics in sales school, which, by the way, isn't 12 pieces of content. We take that 10-step sales process and we break that up into small chunks. So I've got what I feel like is one piece of content, but I teach it over the course of 6 months. And I also teach the art of influence during that 12 weeks. And I teach prospecting and referrals. That's it. Our 10-step process, the art of influence, prospecting, referrals. And that's 12 lessons for us, the way that we break that up. And in sales school, we've got 24 weeks. We teach the 12 lessons, then we go back to lesson number 1, and we teach the exact same 12 again. Now I'm going to have a different flavor every time I teach. That's the way my personality is. So it's going to feel a little bit different. There's going to be a different level of nuance. But more important even than the content being any different the second time than it was the first time is that the people I'm teaching are now different. 12 weeks later, 3 months later, my student who's been going through this sales school process, who's been learning all these lessons, who's been implementing, who's been encouraged, who's had a community speaking life into them, they have developed. They're a new person. They're not in the same state they were last time. And they're going to hear something and capture something and be able to implement something now that they weren't capable to implement previously, that they weren't ready to receive last time. And in a new season of life, a little bit of nuance, a little turn of the dial is just going to land differently for them. And it's going to change them. And I have people go through our sales school program 2 times, 3 times, and they just come back and they get these same lessons again and again and again. And I'm not creating new lessons for it. I'm just teaching the same stuff. I'm playing the hits because I know if I just teach a few things again and again, people are going to get great results. People are going to learn and develop and master things over time. Pressy Martinez, our longest standing client, he's been with us for 5 years. He just re-enrolled for his 6th year at Faith2Influence. And I haven't taught much that's new. For Pressy, he learned the sales process. The 4th month Faith2Influence was in business. In his first year, the opening weekend, he came to a live event, a live retreat. I taught him almost all the same things I'm still teaching him today. But it's not all about the teaching. It's about the community. It's about mastery. It's about where the teaching is landing now. It's about the nuance. It's about me developing as a speaker, as a communicator, as a teacher. My art of influence is growing. And so I might teach the same thing, but be a different person now than I was then. And it's going to land differently. And so I just want to encourage you. I know so many coaches are like, oh man, how would I run a year-long program? What would I teach? What would I talk about? How would I even run a 6-month program? People get so caught up in this stuff and they psych themselves out. Guess what? If you want to run a year-long program and you really did want to teach every week, here's a reminder. You don't have to teach any of those weeks. Or you could teach once a month. You could have a once-a-month masterclass. You could teach every other week in a group program that was annual. And so maybe you'd have monthly, you'd have 12 sessions in a year of teaching. Maybe you'd choose to opt for 24 or 26 if you want to go every other week. Maybe you do 52 or 48 if you want to generally teach something new every single week. But it wouldn't be new. It wouldn't be new. That's my encouragement to you. Is that if you wanted to even have a 48-week program where you were teaching something every single week, my encouragement to you would be this. Choose 12 things. Choose 12 topics and teach them all 4 times. Give everybody every one of those topics every quarter. Or teach 6 topics 8 times. I'm not kidding you. It's going to be a little bit different each time. You can bring a new flavor. You can ask a new question. You can invite engagement and Q&A and conversation around the topics. But for every single coach listening to this, I want you to know you do not need to be inventing new things all the time. So for some of you, you're creative and that's fun for you and that's exciting. And sure, then maybe you might do that more than I would. However, even for you creatives, I want to encourage you and remind you and tell you the truth that just because you have a creative mind that can be on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing all the time, doesn't mean it's best for your clients. Your clients probably need stability, consistency, and follow through and implementation on the things that they've already learned. They need to learn them again and again and again until they become a part of them, until their identity shifts, until the transformation becomes easy and natural. That's the real work. And so I hope for some of you listening to this, you're encouraged, recognizing that you don't need to have any content to be a great coach and a great leader and lead a great program. And that if you choose to teach and have master classes and have content and be a trainer, not just a coach, that you probably are going to be most successful, and your clients are probably going to be most successful if you simply teach 4, 6, 8, or 12 things again and again and again for year after year after year. It doesn't mean you don't develop or try to get better. The content might develop a little bit over time, but ultimately, if it's good, if it's helpful, if it's true, let's stay in that lane. Let's stick with it. Let's play the hits. If you've got more questions on this, feel free to reach out. I'm happy for you to even just email me and say, hey, I've got some questions about developing content. My email is justin@faith2influence.com. You're welcome to reach out to me anytime. And if you want to engage further than that, like you're wanting to know about our content, I'd love to have you join our Christian Coaches Academy. We're launching it in just a couple of weeks. And so if you're listening to this now, you can join and be a founding member of this. If you're listening to this episode after more than a couple of weeks after it was released, then great. Like, you can join us at any time. The Christian Coaches Academy is always open, and it's a very low price program where we've got a library of all of our content, the hits, the good stuff that we teach again and again and again. And then we've got that other form of group call where we're not teaching anything. And on a weekly basis, we're coming together to network and pray together as Christian entrepreneurs and coaches. And then once a quarter, we do a planning session. Also, not teaching, just facilitation of good ideas, asking good questions, and helping people solve their own problems. And so if you want to look at what both of those models look like, our content and the engagement of community, feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you about the Christian Coaches Academy, CCA, as we're calling it. Like I said, you can just email me at justin@faith2influence.com, or you can learn more about the Academy at f2itribe.com/CCA. For those of you who are listening right away, it's actually /CCA-founder. I'll put this in the show notes as well, but that's www.f2itribe.com/CCA. Or if you're listening to this right away, right after we released it, /CCA-founder. God bless you all. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you're feeling encouraged. I hope you have an amazing, amazing Christmas. We're recording this episode just before Christmas, and I'll talk to you all soon. See ya.